Thank you. So today, I would like to tell you a tale of two love stories. One is the very famous love story between Queen Victoria and her consort, Prince Albert. The other is not quite as well known, for it concerns the love musicians, and indeed their audiences, have for arguably one of Prince Albert's greatest conceptions, the Royal Albert Hall. Of course, the building is renowned. It was originally to be named the Central Hall of Arts and Sciences, so it does much to promote science and business innovation as much as music. But within the public consciousness, and indeed for myself, it is when there is music in the Albert Hall that the building really comes alive. Let me give you a bit of an example. So on October the 29th, 2007, Nana Mouskouri played her last concert in England at the Royal Albert Hall. Although part of her farewell tour, the concert was not heavily sold. Nevertheless, there was a fantastic atmosphere in the auditorium as her loyal fans relished their last chance to hear her perform live. The auditorium really resounded with their cheers as she left the auditorium for the final time. And that night was also the night that a young student began her first shift as a steward at the Royal Albert Hall. My own relationship with Albertopolis goes back quite a long way. It began when I was just 12, when I auditioned for the Royal College of Music Junior Department on the violin. This proved to be just step one on a musical journey that's still continuing. The Royal Albert Hall was step two, as it was during a hiatus from studying in South Kensington that I began working as a steward. I completed my bachelor's and my master's degrees at King's College London, but the pull of South Kensington was just too great, and I returned to the RCM in 2011, where I am currently involved in research for my PhD, the role of the Royal Albert Hall in London's musical life. My thesis allows me to explore two of the areas of music I'm most passionate about. That's the impact of music on people, and how the history of the Royal Albert Hall, and indeed Albertopolis as a whole area, has shaped the musical life of London and indeed cultural centres throughout the world. Something that I would like to share with you today is the Royal Albert Hall's constitution from 1871, the year the hall opened. The constitution describes the hall's role in promoting the arts and sciences as part of Prince Albert's vision for the whole area after the Great Exhibition. And it explains the role of the members. The hall was originally built partially through public subscription, and the members are those people who initially bought seats. Of course, since 1871, there have been numerous changes both to the fabric of the building and in terms of how the hall is run. For example, you've probably seen the big mushrooms in the dome. Well, they came in the 1960s, and they really helped improve the acoustics. In fact, the reflection was dramatically decreased. And this was really important for this building because it's been linked with classical music for a very long time. It's, infamous for the proms and everything, but it was also infamous for allowing the audience to hear performances twice. Such was the reflection in those days. Also in the 60s, in 1966, the Royal Albert Hall gained charity status. And this was really important for also entrenching Albert's vision. I'd like to share with you that statement now. So it says, to maintain to a high standard and further improve the Grade 1 listed Royal Albert Hall, to promote the arts and sciences by means of a full, wide-ranging programme of high-quality and well-attended events, including community and charitable events, attracting new, diverse and younger audiences, a distinctive education programme, and by increasing public awareness and access to the building as a whole. And this statement helps to ensure that concerts and events, which are part of the Hall's calendar, also have responsibility to be part of the Hall's ethos in terms of bringing science and art to as many people as possible. In terms of me and my relationship with the Hall, the fact that I remember that first night at the Hall so clearly is really testimony, I believe, to the effect that the Hall had on me almost as soon as I stepped through the door. As a musician, I've spent much of my youth performing lots of different venues, from my local theatre, even through to the Duomo in Florence on a school trip to Italy. But to this day, I still haven't really found another venue that makes my spine tingle quite like the Albert Hall. Of course, the hall is world famous. It's part of in the last night of the prom celebrations, which we've got coming up on Saturday, once more, and the Festival of Remembrance, and the calibre of the people that grace its stage really guarantees this. But there is some other magic present. It's always present, and it's something that makes the audience gasp when they walk through those resplendent red curtains and keeps them in their seats long after each performance has ended. When I began working at the hall, I thought that it was something to do with the beauty of the building that meant that this happened, but experience has taught me that the situation is much more complex. And it's this complexity which I'm really seeking to analyse and research through my own studies. I have a couple of short anecdotes that I'd really like to share with you that I think it really illustrate more clearly than anything else quite how important the link is between music and the hall and its audiences. They're both set during the Second World War and during the proms. And the first one is that during the Second World War, the hall only actually closed for a few months, just during the Blitz. But quite often, the audiences would be invited to stay if there was an air raid. So on this particular occasion, there was an air raid, and the audience stayed post of normal concert time, and the orchestra kept playing until about midnight. They did solos, they did chamber works, but by midnight they'd been playing since 7:30. They were quite tired. So then the audience started playing to one another. So that's lovely, you know, they're all enjoying each other's company. But there was one lady who really wanted to sing, but the only thing that she could sing was German Lieder. So it's just slightly ironic. But the audience didn't make any objections, so while German bombs rained down on London, the Royal Albert Hall listened to German Lieder, and I think that's a real moment of pure cultural beauty. There's another one that again illustrates the same sort of thing. During the war, there was I think the orchestra, I can't remember which orchestra it was, but they were playing a symphony, and it was a quiet second movement. And they became aware that there was one of those flying bombs coming overhead, and the audience stayed in their seats. The orchestra kept playing, but they could hear it coming closer and closer, and everyone, are they going to move? Are they going to stay? What's going to happen? But actually, everybody stayed, and the bomb went overhead and exploded over Hyde Park. So nobody got hurt on this occasion. So that was a bit of relief for everybody all around. But I think that is another sort of proper. It really shows the connection between audiences, music, and the importance of the hall altogether. So both of these stories for me really demonstrate how the nation's village hall is exactly that, a space where over 5,000 people in one evening can join together to be part of something truly special. The hall was built by a grieving Queen Victoria as part of the memorial to her beloved husband, and I think that love that made certain that the hall was initially built can still be felt when the proms audiences listen with rapt attention in almost complete silence, when the Queen arrives for the Festival of Remembrance, and indeed, when over 5,000 voices join together, when people sing along to perhaps their favourite artist or their favourite music. So my last question is this. Would Prince Albert think that his central hall is fulfilling its task? And I think millions of people would agree with me when I say it is. That's it.